Hi, my name's Dariush and welcome to the Watermark. So I started bartending when I was about 18 years old. I was studying graphic design at the time, down at Plymouth College, and then moved up towards Manchester, where I had a fork in the road where I decided I was going to go down this creative route of products like sort of graphic design, illustration, stuff like that, or was I going to go down the bartending route, which I was kind of in love with at the same time. Obviously this is the route I chose, but it allowed me to be creative on the side with everything I like doing, like illustration, then move into sort of bartending and how that was going to be creative myself. We had this bar in our kitchen, which was essentially, we had a few bottles, me and Filipos. So Filipos was sort of working with Spanish tapas bars, not deliberately, but he just sort of like fell quite naturally, like sort of one after the other when he was like leaving, went to something else. And he was like bartending, and then he was like the head bartender of a certain bar, and then he was like the barman of another place, and he was always developing menus and working with teams. That was like the main point. So I was working with the Alchemist, and we were both sort of bringing our work home with us, like, you know, making drinks in our kitchen. But then we liked entertaining, like we liked looking after people and like having people around our house. And so this kitchen kind of very naturally, from working in backgrounds of like making bars ergonomic and make work for you, we had loads of parties in our house, and they would just spontaneously happen. And I'd come home from like, say, Liverpool at like maybe 12 o'clock at night. I'd come home, the door's slightly ajar, and the house is just full of all these Greek people just partying. No smashed plates yet. And well, I was just like, I remember just running around my kitchen, like trying to get this place so you're washing stuff, and there's ice over here, and like you're running out of ice, so you're like having to like put ice in a freezer, so you get an ice machine, and very, all these little things. You very slowly like build this bar around you in the kitchen where we could like have these big parties, but then we could just like develop drinks, you know? And it was sitting in our living room at like 2 in the morning where we decided, we both wanted to open a bar together, but rather than opening just a random bar with no sort of meaning, we had like one of our favourite bars like in our kitchen, so we just thought, let's just open this whole feeling, like move it into town. So somewhere quite intimate, quite small, and then I guess we just fell on this place, and that's kind of where we are now. But it's all like trying to move that kitchen into town, like the whole feel of walking into someone's house, rather than walking to a bar. But it's just that sort of moment, and that's kind of where everything switched, rather than from like, oh, let's just open a bar and like, you know, make cocktails and whatever. There was no real reason for it. We were happy with what we were doing, but to be where I came from, and I was really creative with drawing or filmmaking, whatever, like little movies and stop frame animation, whatever I was doing, applying it to the bartending world, it was just like making drinks, but then it was like having a space and like making that space yours, and what's it going to be. I suppose that's what the Watermark sort of came into place. Favourite cocktail at the moment? I guess like daiquiris are quite fashionable, to be honest. I think it's because they're quick and they're delicious, and you've got lime juice in there, so it's good for you. Rum's a party spirit. So a daiquiri probably, or just like a nice Boulevardier. I think it's like just super easy to make. I can't ever make it wrong. And I've always got the ingredients in my house, like just Campari, vermouth, and bourbon. Yeah. We're changing for the guest. We're changing for the guest, and we're sort of stepping our game up to evolve. I'm seeing a lot more bars opening that are providing table service and are giving a glass of water with, like for us, for example, table service and water. You know, you go down to Domino, they're going to do exactly the same thing, whether you stood at the bar, whether you get sat down on a table, you know. Below stairs, same sort of thing. You look at like the top 50 in like the hotel bars that are being, you know, people are going to these bars for a certain reason, because they want to feel a certain way. It's escapism, right? And we don't talk to our guests in any sort of like robo manner. Like, we want you to feel like you're in a house, so we talk to you like you just walked into our house. And that's just because of where we've come from in our story. So I guess like the industry's changing because we're looking about how we can help ourselves, but also help the guests. You know, sustainability, any sort of like new trend that's coming out, like why are people thinking about that, and how can we get better? So bars getting better in the product they're giving to the guests. The guests are learning more because there's way more engagement from brands and consumers now than there was like 10 years ago. Like, there's so many gin festivals, there's so many like whiskey nights, there's so many like little pairings and things like that. And that's educating the guest, and they do that sort of thing for the bartender as well. So it's like both people are growing and both are expecting more. You know, you expect them as a bartender to go to like one of your favourite bars and get really good service. And especially with social media and everything, like people have to be way more in their game, because like one little slip up can like really cost you, you know? Whether it's like someone drinks something they're not supposed to drink, or whether that's just literally they have a really bad experience or one rude bartender, you know? And like the training that bars are giving their bartenders to sort of solve that, you know, whether that's like the delivery of the product or creativity or just how they speak to their guests, you know, all these things are getting better and better and better, and the competition that bartenders have with each other and the bars just sort of makes them, it's a natural evolution, you know, like the bars that don't do so well, unfortunately they close. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, it's like it's good for the city, because then it's like survival of the fittest almost. But I'd say the industry is changing in that way because of social media and the way that we're able to talk to each other. I'm able to know what bars in like Barcelona and like, I don't know, Sri Lanka or whatever doing. I don't know a single bar in Sri Lanka actually, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I know exactly what they're doing because of like, I can see it on my phone, you know, and I'm able to sort of learn from them. And now we can go to like bar shows all over the world and see what the bartenders are doing and what their bars are doing for their guests and what they're, you know, different guests in different cities, in different countries, you know. Well, I guess it's just the way bartenders are being more creative now. Yeah, they, like I was saying earlier, they look at ingredients and how is that ingredient made, how can they make it themselves, and how can they change that process. So whether that's like roasting the coffee bean or like turning it off midway through the roast and getting like a sweeter profile, whether it's having a cold brew like yourselves and a concentrate, whether it's in like the texture. We're doing a drink literally right now over at Big Glass where we just phoned an espresso. And in Greece there's this thing called Freddo Cappuccino, Freddo Espresso. They basically blend it and it just almost like emulsifies it. Essentially it's just like aerating the espresso and it just comes into this foam, right? So rather than putting the coffee into the drink, you're putting the coffee on the drink and you're just getting the texture and the caffeine, sure. It's just how you can, it doesn't have to be espresso martinis if it makes it easier. Coffee, how coffee is changing a drink, you can take the bitter element, you get the sweet element, you can get the texture. There's so much you can do, but it's the same way that people are just applying the logic, what can you do with coffee cocktails? Do you use the coffee bean? Do you just infuse the coffee bean raw into Campari like we do? Right? Or is it the same way you approach, I don't know, something else, like how you make your sugar syrup, what temperatures, you know, like what type of sugar you're putting in there, you know, everything. So how is coffee changing in cocktails? I think people are looking past the espresso martini, but not putting it out of the way, because you'll find the most espresso martini twists like above anything else, really, I'd say. I was really thinking about this and I just don't know. Cabbage cheese for sure. I definitely wouldn't go anywhere than that. Maybe squid ink, but we'll go from there. Well, we change the menu every single month, so we take inspiration from that, essentially. Well, that's our brief, not inspiration, but it depends on like what month it is, seasons, I guess, maybe what's going on around. Or for us, it's like we've got a very small bar, we want to use all the products we can that are perishable. And how can we stretch those ingredients as far as it's gone? You know, like a lime's come all the way from Brazil. It'd be ridiculous if I just like sliced it open, juiced it through the shell in the bin, you know? There's so much flavour in there. And that goes with anything, like the banana skin, the pineapple, we use like the whole rind and then like reuse the pulp for something else to ferment it. And it's like stretching what you can. So we're inspired by the stuff that we've got at hand. Now, whether that's something that's in season, that's cheaper, we can buy in bulk, or we can go to the market and see what's available, and then like, that's our creativity. Or is it we have a menu upstairs and we're going to write a completely different brief for that. But what inspires us is just being able to have the deadline of a menu a month. Like, we don't always get to that. Maybe it's like 2 weeks delayed, so like maybe every six weeks. But like, first of all, we're inspired by the deadline. Like, we need to hit that deadline. Okay, creativity needs a deadline. Otherwise, you just keep on going forever, and you'd have like to no end. You'd be speed developing drinks. And then what type of guest, I guess, comes into the door and what they're ordering, we're able to react to that. So it's all about focusing around the brief and then how do you tackle that brief. What do the guests want? What do you want to make? You know, and then it could be anything really. We have our development sessions like now every 2 weeks. So we're always talking about different things. Sometimes it's like how you create a drink can come from any angle. Sometimes we've got the painting on the menu, the Absolute Waste Man, just because it's funny to hear some people say it, but also because like the Absolute Waste Man, for example, is drink that is using all the waste product in the bar. So from the first menu, the second menu had the absolute waste max. We're like, right, we're throwing away like loads of grapefruits that are like the skin's pretty much off it, and we haven't got much use after we've juiced a few of them. And, you know, we throw away the pulp. So like, how can we put that in the drink? There's pineapple that we use to make a syrup. It's like, it's no good for making syrup, but there's so much flavour there. So we like, you know, we ferment it and things like that. That sort of inspires the next menu. I think the most expensive drink that I've ever had, I can't remember how much it was, but it was in Savoy. I think it was like Hanky Panky. It was years ago. I couldn't even tell you how much it was. I think it was like maybe 120 quid or something like that, maybe more. Because Filipos had one, he had something else. And I just remember that was probably the most expensive money I've ever spent on a drink. Or, yeah, that's got it.
How was it? How was it?
Oh yeah, it was banging, obviously. Yeah. I mean, probably for the price, I wanted it to be that delicious as well. But I guess it was because of like vintage spirits as well, so it was more the point than the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's